In this video, we're going to start learning about the action bar. And along the way, we're going to learn a little bit about app compatibility and also something about styles and themes. So start by pulling up a Chrome window and go to developer.android.com. And under Developers, Training, we're going to go for the tutorial on adding the action bar to start. Now, the first thing that we're going to have to do is make sure that our SDK has everything that we need. So I'm going to go ahead and launch Android Studio. And I'm going to go to the SDK Manager, close the tip of the day, go to the SDK Manager, and before we begin, you want to make sure that at the bottom under Extras, you have the Android Support Library installed. If you don't have this installed already, go ahead and click this box and then click Install Packages to install it. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to configure another virtual device so that we have an older version of the operating system to test on. Now, I've been using Genymotion here, so I'm going to go ahead and start the Genymotion device manager. If you're using Android virtual devices, then go ahead and start the AVD manager. And I'm going to click on New. And I already have a modern version of the API installed. This time I'm going to go all the way back to version 2.3.7, which is API level 10. And let me go ahead and pick this Nexus 1. It's a low resolution device, and so I'll have a medium resolution device and a low resolution device to play around with. And I'm just going to click the Next button here and install. Okay, so now I should have both the Nexus 7 API level 21 and the Nexus 1 API level 10. And I'm going to go ahead and exit out of here, hit refresh in my Genymotion device manager, and I'm going to launch both of these devices. So I'll have two to test on. So you'll notice this is version 5.0.0 and this is version 2.3.7. So we'll start that one. So here's my Nexus 7 starting up, and I'm also going to start my Nexus 1. Okay, those will take a minute. So while these are doing its thing, this one's loaded already, I'm going to swipe up to unlock the device. And then this is an old version of Android, so I'm going to go to the end here and touch and hold and drag to the trash can. All right. And here. So now I have both of my devices running. I'm going to head and create a new project. And this time I'm going to call it ActionBar. And I already have an ActionBar project, so I'm going to call this ActionBar 2. Now, this minimum API level, this is important, and basically the version that you set this to is going to determine the level of backwards compatibility that, that you have to support in your application. And I'm going to leave this at 10. You should set it to 10 as well. because that matches the version of this Android device that I have here. It's actually 2.3.4, which is API level 10. And so that's what I'm going to use here. And this will affect what I get when I create my activity. So I'm going to start with a blank activity. And we'll leave all of this stuff as the default. And Gradle will do its thing. Create a new project. All right, so here's my new project. And it's done a couple of things. We'll let Gradle finish building the app and indexing it. Okay, so now we should be ready to go. Let me point some stuff out. So under the Android manifest, you'll see that it's got an activity, main activity, labeled ActionBar 2. And under Gradle Scripts, there are two scripts that are important here. Build.gradle applies to the application, the whole project. And build.gradle module applies to the application. So you'll notice that the minimum SDK version is set to 10 and the target SDK version is set to 21. And that it's also automatically included under dependencies a requirement for com.android.support:appcompat v7 and so on. So this corresponds to the setting in the SDK that I just made sure was installed. Let me show you where that is. So under C, users, mark, app data, local Android SDK. So here's where my SDK install directory is. Extras, Android, support. Here's the Android support and support library. So there are different compatibility libraries depending on which version of the OS you're trying to maintain backwards compatibility with. And we're including this v7 appcompat right here. And the build number is directly from the SDK manager. So if we scroll down to extras, we'll see that the revision is 21.0.3. So that's where that comes from. So this is all automatically generated. And this should really be most of what we need. So let's look at the main activity, and we'll see that it's using the ActionBar activity. And this should be compatible with both the early version of the operating system all the way up to the modern version. And let's go ahead and test it. Okay, so first I'm going to run it on the Nexus 7. And it's running. And then I'm going to run it again on the Nexus 1. And it's running on here as well. So this one doesn't have the hard buttons at the bottom. I have to hit back. But basically, ActionBar 2 doing the same thing. All right, so I already have compatibility in the ActionBar. Let me show you what would happen if I went to my build.gradle in the module and I increased the min SDK version to 11. So now I'm going to run it. And this time when I select unknown Genymotion, I get a session app error. And if I click on the app, basically when it went to install the package on my Android device, it got an error because the minimum SDK is higher than the SDK supported on this device. So that's what you'll see if you don't have compatibility. Set this back to 10 and run it. And so now it's working.